What's happening, everybody? Fans of all teams, especially my Redskins fans out there, hail to the Redskins. It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, bringing y'all all of the important off-season dates, starting from yesterday with the Underclassmen declaring for the NFL Draft, all the way up into the regular season, the exact day it starts in September. That's including training camp, the NFL Draft, Senior Bowl, when free agency starts, all of that type of stuff. Stay tuned and I got y'all. Let's get it. Alright, first of all, yesterday, as in January 17th, Friday, was the deadline for college players who are underclassmen to apply for special eligibility. Which basically means anybody that's an underclassman, not a full-fledged senior, this is their time to declare for the NFL Draft. The deadline was yesterday, January 17th, and teams will be informed by January 21st of the entire list of people that declared. And just to give y'all some names of who declared, from Alabama you have Henry Ruggs III, Jedrick Wills, the offensive tackle, Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver, of course, Tua Tagovailoa declared a while ago, Xavier McKinney, the safety, Terrell Lewis, the linebacker, the wide receiver from Colorado, Laviska Shenault, Clemson's wide receiver T. Higgins, and even though Isaiah Simmons isn't on the list, he said months ago that he planned on declaring anyway. So even though he hasn't officially announced his declaration to the 2020 draft, it only makes sense that he's actually declaring. Maybe it just hasn't been reported yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. My boy, cornerback CJ Henderson, who I want the Redskins to get, declared. My Bulldogs, Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, DeAndre Swift, the running back, best running back in the class, Isaiah Wilson, tackle also, Jake Fromm, the quarterback, and Solomon Kinley, the guard, who will be a very big, I can already tell he's going to be a big sleeper pick. Somebody get him in one of them later rounds. The Iowa edge, probably the best edge in the draft other than Chase Young, AJ Epinesa declared. LSU as a bunch, most notably Grant Delpit, the safety, Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver, Clavon Chaisson, the edge, Patrick Queen, the linebacker who showed out against Clemson in that championship game, and Randy Moss's son, Thaddeus Moss. They have him as a wide receiver, but I thought he was more of a tight end. We'll see, though. My boy, Mekhi Becton, the tackle out of Louisville, declared. The safety, Antoine Minfield out of Minnesota, declared. The tight end out of Missouri, Albert O. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'm going to come out with a draft pronunciation guide, and by then I would have practiced his name, but at this point, Albert O is all y'all are getting. And of course, from Ohio State, J.K. Dobbins, the running back, Chase Young, the defensive end, and Jeffrey Okudah, the cornerback. From Oklahoma, linebacker Kenneth Murray, probably the second best linebacker, only to Isaiah Simmons, and then wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. From Washington, quarterback Jacob Eason, ex-Bulldog, and tight end Hunter Bryant. And from Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, the running back. And I'm just naming very notable people. There's people from all kinds of schools. There's even some people from schools that I did announce who declared, but I didn't announce all the people from the school. I just wanted to skim through all of the most notable names that declared. So yeah, like I said, January 21st, the official list will come out. And then today, the East-West Shrine Bowl in Tropicana Field, St. Petersburg, Florida is going down. Also, the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl is going down in Pasadena, California. January 19th are the AFC and NFC championship games. That's tomorrow, Sunday, of course. And since I'm out here being very specific with everything, just to let y'all know, the Titans play at the Chiefs at 3:05 p.m. and the Packers play at the 49ers at 6:40 p.m. All Eastern time. For everything I'm saying in this video, all Eastern time. It's the most important time zone anyway. Then a big date, January 25th, is the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. That's pretty big because there's a lot of notable names that end up going to the Senior Bowl and make a name for themselves and end up showing out in the NFL. And as far as this 2020 Senior Bowl goes, there's some very notable names like LSU's cornerback Christian Fulton, South Carolina defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, Alabama's defensive tackle Raekwon Davis, Ohio State linebacker Malik Harrison, my boy Rodrigo Blankenship, Georgia kicker, Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts, Oregon quarterback Justin Herbert, Michigan quarterback Shea Patterson trying to make a name for himself, probably the best tight end in this entire draft class, Bryson Hopkins out of Purdue, and many other notable names. Like with earlier, I could just go on for forever with these names, but I just wanted to name some of the notable ones just so we can keep it pushing Wanted to give y'all a nice little example of what's going on. Then January 26th is the NFL Pro Bowl. Don't really have to dive deep into that. You already know what the Pro Bowl is, who's in it, and all of that. Pretty much all of the best players in the NFL that aren't either injured or going to the Super Bowl. Now, they hated on a few of my Redskins like Quentin Dunbar, but you know, we'll get up with you next year, NFL, about that one. Then February 2nd is the Super Bowl in Hard Rock Stadium, South Florida. So that's some really good weather for February. Very good weather for February. Then February 3rd, the waiver wire system begins for 2020. And that's pretty serious. This is a system that allows teams to submit a claim for players who were cut by another NFL team. Then February 11th, beginning at 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. They always say New York time. I'm going to say Eastern because the rest of us matter too. NFL clubs may begin to sign players who 2020 CFL contracts have expired, the Canadian Football League. Players under contract to a CFL club for the 2020 season or who have an option for the 2020 season are not eligible to be signed. So if there's some great potential players in the CFL and their contracts are up, they don't have a contract going into the 2020 season, NFL teams can go try to get them. And then things get really interesting on February 24th. That's when the NFL Scouting Combine takes place. Lucas Oil Stadium, like it is every year, Indianapolis, Indiana.
He flashes. Look at the lower body, just huge. He's got dancing feet with that lower body. It's unbelievable. Look at the body. Look at that bubble butt.
What?
It takes place from February 24th to March 2nd. This is when people get their 40 times, their 3 cones, their shuttles, their verticals, their official weights and heights, when they test their strength, speed, agility, all of that. Some players really make a name for themselves at the NFL Scouting Combine. Some people who didn't necessarily put up great film but put up great numbers in the Scouting Combine can generate a lot of draft buzz. Most notably like Montez Sweat, who was really good already on film. But then when he did that 40 time at the size he was, his name started skyrocketing. Unfortunately for him, later on, it came out that he had some medical issues and is why he slid so far in the draft. But at first, he was about to go top 10. Also, players like Troy Apke, who's really not good at safety, can't tackle still, but his combine numbers were so great, specifically his 40 time, that we ended up taking him in the 4th, even though he really didn't deserve to go in the 4th round. That's what the Scouting Combine does. And I'm pretty sure Isaiah Simmons is going to super wow people at this NFL Scouting Combine. February 25th, the first day for teams to designate franchise or transition players. For the Redskins, Brandon Sheriff is probably our biggest candidate for possibly getting franchise tagged. And y'all already know how we used to go through it with Kirk Cousins for like several seasons straight. But now we may be going through the same thing with Brandon Sheriff. We'll see though. March 10th, prior to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, is the deadline for clubs to officially designate who they're going to franchise tag or transition tag. So by March 10th, we'll know for sure if the Redskins have franchise tagged Brandon Sheriff or somebody else for some odd reason. Now March 16th through March 18th is when it gets really, really crazy. Clubs are permitted to contact and enter contract negotiations with the certified agents of players who will become unrestricted free agents upon the expiration of their 2019 player contracts at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, March 18th. So March 16th is when you are officially allowed to legally tamper. It is no longer illegal. You are allowed to talk to unrestricted free agents. And that's why on March 18th at 4 p.m., when free agency officially begins, there's a lot of players getting signed left and right, because they've already started talking since March 16th, which is when legal tampering is officially allowed. So March 18th at 4 p.m. is when free agency technically officially begins. But prior to 4 p.m. on March 18th, Eastern Time, teams can exercise options for 2020 on all players who have an option clause in their 2019 contracts. Also prior to 4 p.m., teams must submit qualifying offers to their restricted free agents with expiring contracts to retain a right of first refusal compensation. So for the Redskins, there's no real big notable restricted free agents that we have to really worry about. We have Trayvon Hester, the defensive end, tight end Jerome Cunningham, and defensive end Caleb Brantley. That's literally it. Those are our only restricted free agents. And just for those who may not know, our unrestricted free agents include Brandon Sheriff, guard, tight end Vernon Davis, running back Chris Thompson, quarterback Case Keenum, guard Eric Flowers, who we should re-sign, quarterback Colt McCoy, who I doubt will re-sign, right tackle Donald Penn, even though I'm pretty sure he's retiring, cornerback Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, who we should bring back if he's willing to come back for a very cheap contract during the training camp. He might not make the 53-man roster. Center Tony Bergstrom, who's just permanent backup. Linebacker John Bostic, who I doubt will keep. Cornerback Aaron Colvin. Fullback Michael Burton. Defensive end Nate Orchard, who I really hope we bring back for at least special teams. Running back Wendell Smallwood. And strong safety Kenny Ladler. Please bring back Brandon Sheriff, Redskins long term. Re-sign him, Eric Flowers, and bring back Trent. Also, prior to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, teams must submit a minimum salary tender to retain exclusive negotiating rights to their players with their expiring 2019 contracts who have fewer than 3 accrued seasons of free agency credit. Also, prior to 4 p.m., the top 51 rule begins, and all teams must be under the 2020 salary cap prior to 4 p.m. You cannot go into free agency period over the salary cap. And then, of course, all 2019 players' contracts officially expire at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is when the party begins. The 2020 league year and free agency period officially begins at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is also when trading begins. Teams haven't been able to trade for players since Tuesday, October 29th at 4 p.m. in 2019. That was the last time teams have been able to trade for players. It will officially open back up when the 2020 season officially begins on March 18th, 4 p.m. So free agents, trades, everything. It's just chaos on March 18th. That's a big day for a lot of people, especially us Redskins fans who are going to have the most salary cap we've had in a long time. We have an entirely new front office, and hopefully, unlike Bruce Allen, they'll be aggressive during free agency. Hopefully they're not twiddling their fingers and looking for bargain deals at the end of free agency for players like John Bostic. No, go out there and be aggressive and get players like Trey Boston at free safety, Austin Hooper at tight end. I can go on for hours about that. I'm going to do a video on it for us Redskins fans about free agents we need to target. And free agents we need to keep, who are a part of the unrestricted free agents I just listed off earlier, like Brandon Sheriff and Eric Flowers. And then since the league year is still going, free agent signings and trades will continue going on, but March 29th through April 1st is the annual league meeting in Palm Beach, Florida. This is where everybody notable from NFL teams, owners, coaches, all of that meet for a few days to discuss various things like rule changes that they may want to vote on. They talk about what happened the previous season, what will happen this next season. I mean, many things are discussed. This is where they discuss things like how much celebrating should be allowed in the NFL, what type of replay challenges do they want to allow or enforce, like the rules with what is a catch, just various rule book things and policy changes. All of that is discussed amongst owners and coaches and anybody else very notable in an NFL organization. They're all together in one place having these meetings. And of course, this is where a lot of media members get access to coaches and owners and ask them various questions about the team. So this is also very big in the offseason. This is more than likely when we'll get a lot of answers out of Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, Jack Del Rio, and everybody else. Kyle Smith, Doug Williams. This is when the media has access to them again to ask them a lot of questions that really matter to us fans. But yeah, those league meetings are crazy, bro. Onside kick rules and stuff, overtime rules, all of that is discussed during that period. Now, April 6th, clubs that hired a new head coach after the end of the 2019 season may begin off-season workout programs. That's us. We have a new coach, Ron Rivera, first-year coach. So we can begin our off-season programs ahead of everybody else. I mean, not everybody, because the Giants and the Cowboys got new head coaches, so they can begin when we can also. Of course, the Panthers with Matt Rule and the Browns once they finally hire a head coach. And then April 17th is the deadline for restricted free agents to sign their offer sheets. So that's when we'll really see whether restricted free agents will stay with their. Then April 20th, teams with returning head coaches may begin their offseason workout programs. So they're a whole 14 days behind the teams with new coaches, but at the same time they're technically not, because that means they're technically at least a year ahead of those coaches. But I appreciate the NFL for doing that. I like that rule being in place. New coaches get 14 days of workout programs more than teams who have returning head coaches for the next year. Then April 23rd through the 25th, NFL draft in Las Vegas, Nevada. I would love to go. NFL draft is my favorite part of the NFL. the combine, even just going back to watching high school players huddles and the recruiting and seeing which colleges they'll choose, and then they go to college and see how they perform in college and how they do in the combine, off-season workouts and all of that, where they get drafted to. All of those processes are like my favorite part of football, and I can't wait for this draft. I'm going to live stream every round on April 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Even though it's in Vegas, the first round of the NFL draft will begin, starting with the Cincinnati Bengals, who are already on the clock. And in my opinion, the first 2 picks are locks. Joe Burrow to the Bengals, Chase Young to my Redskins, and then the draft officially begins with the 3rd overall selection with the Lions and the Giants. You never know, the Dolphins with the 5th pick might want to trade up for Tua. The Panthers might want to trade up to get a quarterback because they've already announced that Cam Newton will be traded as soon as he's eligible. And what have we learned in this video? Players are eligible to be traded as of March 18th, 4 p.m. So look out for Cam Newton trade news definitely around that time. But back to the NFL draft. Like I said, the first round is on April 23rd starting at 8 p.m. Then, usually it's at like 7 p.m. The next day, April 24th, will be rounds 2 and 3. I'm also live streaming those. Even though the Redskins don't have a 2nd round pick, I will still be live streaming. It doesn't matter if you're a Redskins fan, any team fan, pull up. Because I'm going to make predictions about each pick before they happen. I'm going to react to all trades and all picks. I'm going to analyze them, how they're a good fit for that team, or if the team just made a dumb pick, or if they made a really good pick, if they reached, all of that. And then April 25th is rounds 4 through 7, and I will also be live streaming that, at least some of it. Maybe not the whole thing, because it takes a whole day and those picks start to drag out, and then nobody knows any of those guys' names. But we'll see. And for anybody that doesn't know, compensatory picks start at the end of round 3. Teams are given picks at the end of round 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, depending on the value of the player that they lost in free agency the previous offseason. And the Redskins are estimated to get a 4th round compensatory pick for their loss of Jamison Crowder to the Jets. I plan on making a video of exactly which compensatory picks every team gets and why, because some of them cancel out. Like for the Redskins, us signing Landon Collins cancels out the compensatory pick we would have gotten for Preston Smith going to the Packers. So I plan on breaking that down for every NFL team in a video. I'm gonna be so sad when the draft is done, because that's one of my favorite parts of the NFL season. But after the draft, it's time to move on. Beginning April 27th, NFL teams may request permission to visit with, try out, or sign any player who is under contract to the XFL at the conclusion of the XFL season. Then we move on to May. Clubs may elect to hold one 3-day post-draft rookie minicamp from Friday through Sunday or Saturday through Monday. And that's May 1st through the 4th. Then May 5th is the deadline for prior teams to send a May 5th tender to unsigned, unrestricted free agents. If the player has not signed a player contract with the team by July 22nd or the first scheduled day of the first NFL training camp, whichever comes later, he may negotiate or sign a player contract from that date until Tuesday following the 10th weekend of the regular NFL season at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Only with his prior team though. Then May 8th through 11th, teams may elect to hold one of their 3-day post-draft rookie mini camps from Friday through Sunday or Saturday through Monday. And then May 11th is the rookie football development programs, which is when they have all of their little meetings. It's just like if you went to college, those first few days where they run down all of the rules, like the dormant stuff, how you eat, your meal swipes, all of that type of stuff, where to get books, everything. It's like that, but the NFL equivalent. So they do a video introduction for the NFL and league policies. They talk about players' benefits and benefit resources, including their NFLPA player rights and resources and NFL programs that help them. They also talk about player expectations, of course, including the importance of sportsmanship, respect in the workplace, media responsibilities, and how to work with their team's public relations staffs. Then they talk about social responsibility of players and the ramifications of issues like driving under the influence or committing acts of domestic violence or sexual assault. And then they discuss things like maintaining a strong mental health and fitness. And this is when they talk about their health and safety resources that are available for the rookies and all NFL players, period, but they're talking to the rookies. And then, of course, they talk about the NFL culture and how you have to look in the public eye. You're representing the NFL brand, stuff like that. And, of course, rule changes that they may not have noticed that just happened, that were just voted on this previous offseason. Also, They discuss, of course, rules that are different going from college to the NFL just in general. Like in college, you only have to get one foot in for it to be a catch. In the NFL, you have to get both feet in bounds for it to be considered a catch. In college, you only need one. So yeah, that's basically everything that the Rookie Football Development Program has going on May 11th. Then May 14th through May 17th is the NFLPA Rookie Premiere. So invited rookies, typically first or second round selections, must be permitted by their respective teams to attend. Such players are unavailable for off-season workouts, OTA days, and mini camps during this period. So teams have to sign off on letting their precious high-round picks go attend this rookie premiere. Then May 19th through the 20th is Spring League meetings in Marina Del Rey, California. This is another league meeting. It's not as big as the previous one, but it's still a meeting where they discuss various things. Like in 2018, this is when they discussed gambling, anthem issues, all of that type of stuff. Then we hit June. June 1st is the deadline for prior teams to send the June 1st tender to its unsigned restricted free agents who receive a qualifying offer for a right of first refusal only in order for such player to be subject to the CBA's June 15 tender provision. And that's just a lot of complicated stuff that a lot of teams don't even necessarily have to use every year. Then June 15th is the deadline for teams to withdraw qualifying offers to restricted free agents and still retain exclusive negotiating rights by substituting June 15th tenure of 1 year contract to 110% of the player's prior year paragraph 5 salary. And this is just another thing that a lot of teams don't use year to year at all. But it happens. Then late June is the rookie transition program to be held at each individual team, getting the rookies up to date and all of that. This is what the team does, not just the NFL in general. This is per team, and they decide exactly which dates they want to do. Then July 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time is the deadline for any team that designated a franchise player to sign such player to a multi-year contract or extension. And the Redskins know all too well about this with Kirk Cousins and all of that drama. Hopefully we won't have to really go through this with Brandon Sheriff this year. We might have to though. And it may actually be best in the long term because Brandon Sheriff might just continue signing franchise tags until that new CBA deal comes and the NFL salary cap just skyrockets. But after this date, the player may sign only a 1 year contract with this prior team for the 2020 season, and such contract cannot be extended until after the club's last regular season game. So basically, by 4 p.m. July 15th, if the franchise tag player has not signed a multi-year deal, and then the player can choose to sign that 1 year contract, because some players don't, like Le'Veon Bell, where he just said, F it, I'm just going to sit out this entire season. And then, after signing that 1 year deal, the only time they may sign a multi-year deal is after the last regular season game of 2020. And then mid-July is when teams start to open preseason training camp for rookies, beginning 7 days prior to the club's earliest permissible mandatory reporting date for all players, which is the veteran players. Veteran players, who are defined as a player with at least one pension-credited season, other than quarterbacks or injured players, may report to the club's preseason training camp no earlier than 15 days prior to the club's first scheduled preseason game or July 15th, whichever one is later. So rookies start their little training camp series 7 days before all of the veterans come. And then July 22nd, signing period ends for unrestricted free agents to whom a May 5th tender was made by the prior team. After this date and until 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Tuesday following the 10th weekend of the regular season, prior teams have exclusive negotiating rights. And then also July 22nd, the signing period ends for transition players with outstanding tenders. After this date until 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Tuesday following the 10th weekend of the regular season, the prior team has exclusive negotiating rights also on that. And then we get to August 6th, which is the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. And then August 6th through 9th is the Hall of Fame weekend in Canton, Ohio. And then August 11th is the deadline for players under contract to report to their teams to earn an accrued season for free agency, which is something Trent Williams did not do last year. And if a drafted rookie is not signed with the club by this date, he cannot be traded to any other team in 2020 and may sign a player contract only with the team that drafted him until the day of the draft in the 2021 league year. And that should just never happen. That situation should just never happen. Everybody should have their rookie signed. We shouldn't have to worry about this. And then September 5th, huge date, before 4 p.m. Eastern Time, all teams must reduce their rosters to a maximum 53 players on the active-inactive list. So this is when 53-man rosters must be officially submitted. And this is also the time when teams must place players that won't be on the 53-man list on various lists like the reserve physically unable to perform list, the reserve non-football injury list or illness. And the Redskins have used these lists a lot. We've had Alex Smith, we've had Bryce Love, Trent Williams, even going back to Sua Cravens. A lot of teams normally don't have to deal with stuff like this, but the Redskins have. And then September 6th is the claiming period for players placed on waivers at the final roster reduction, which will expire at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Time. And then September 10th at 12 a.m., literally the second that day starts on Eastern Time, the top 51 rule expires for all NFL teams. And then September 10th and the 13th through the 14th, because Thursday is September 10th, and then 13th is the Sunday, and then the 14th is Monday Night Football. That's when the regular season officially opens for every team. Week 1 begins, and that is the official end of the offseason. And that's also the official end of this video. I just gave y'all all of the important offseason dates. Thank y'all for staying here the entire time. There may have been some dates y'all didn't necessarily care about. And I tried to expound upon all of the random dates that people don't exactly know what they mean. So I really hope y'all appreciated this video. Please hit the like button if you liked it. Please subscribe if you haven't. Again, I'm bringing endless Redskins videos, draft talk videos for anybody, for any fan, for any team. I'm going to do my film sessions, draft analysis, all of that, mock drafts, anything. Of course, I'm coming with more live streams. So make sure you subscribe to stay tuned to that. There's a subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. Just click that. Just click the little RicoScores logo. It's that simple. And make sure y'all get in them comments and let me know how y'all feel about these random dates, how they relate to your team. Even if you're not a Redskins fan, I want everybody's input. And again, thank y'all for the support. I'll catch y'all later.
Y'all take it easy. I'm out.